Hello and welcome to Feedback for the week of April 28th, 2010. We have, it's one of those mega feedbacks with 5 people in the studio.
Boom.
Filling up in its britches. Patrick Klepek, Matt Keil, Abbie Heppe, and Stephen Johnson. Thank you all.
Hello.
I'm very short today. I don't like this.
And you have your newsman hat on.
Yeah.
Could it be because there's a news story that you were responsible for?
There's news.
Yes.
There is.
All right. So what did you alert the people to in the past week?
So that a lot has been going on actually with the Infinity Ward stuff. I know that some people have kind of gotten a little tired of it because it's not as exciting, but a lot of stuff has happened. We're now up to 26 people have left Infinity Ward in total. Like over the course, there were 8 people that left last Friday.
Right.
5 people left on Monday. So there's been including Infinity Ward's human relations and recruitment head.
It's going to be easier for us to start counting who's still
that
there.
Might be a real thankless job over there right now.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, we've had 26 people leave. 12 have converted to Respawn. 1 guy left for a different startup. And it seems like every day, if you just reload LinkedIn, someone else has said that they're working for Respawn. So by all accounts, they're pretty much taking everyone. And then the latest thing that we broke, I guess yesterday when this airs, will be that 38 members of Infinity Ward. Some of them are still there. Some of them aren't. It's not all X people. It's some people that are still there, which is a little bit more awkward.
And are they named in the suit?
They are named in the suit. If you go to our story on g4tv.com, they're all named there, so you can kind of figure out who's there and who's not. One that's been pointed out is not being on the suit is Robert Bowling, their community manager, but there are still a fair number who are not mentioned in this suit. But in any case, they're suing Activision for unpaid royalties between $75 and $125 million. Now, if you look later in the suit, they're suing for punitive damages up to $500 million, but that's lawyer speak. They're not going to get $500 million. But
still, I mean, compared to the Wes Ampella suit, which I think was totaling $75 million, is that, or maybe it was 36 or something?
Yeah, I mean, they're all kind of circling around the same a little bit of money. Like, it's who's who, how does this get distributed, and so the 75 and 150 million is really the number we're talking about. Like, it is lawyer speak to say punitive damages that they would love to get 500 million if they could be awarded that in a jury trial.
Well, they are also trying to claim that California law was violated in the way that the royalties were being withheld.
So let me explain a little about exactly what they're suing for. So they're suing for that they've only gotten a percentage. They're saying 28 of 54 million of the sales that were generated in 2009, which was 1.1 billion. Yeah. It was a lot.
Considerable.
And then they say they've gotten no royalties from the sales they've gotten in the first quarter of this year. They're suing for all of the potential sales they can get after the first quarter. They're saying that they haven't gotten the money for technology and engine royalties, which my guess would be stuff involving Treyarch, using their technology, which is used in World at War and conceivably in their upcoming Call of Duty game. They're suing for lost value on restricted stock units, which is essentially, when you're at, they bought stock in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, but they weren't able to buy into it in their own name till after Modern Warfare 2 outsold Modern Warfare 1's units, but under the condition that happened. It did happen. They haven't gotten access to those stocks, so they're suing over the lost value of that. In addition to that, they're also suing for potential money related to sister games. Now, sister games would probably involve Treyarch's next game, that would involve the technology stuff, and then also Modern Warfare 3, contingent upon if Modern Warfare 3 is ultimately delivered and marketed, which seems to be a point of contention with Wes, Zampella, and these IW guys.
Because they might own the name Modern Warfare. I mean,
right.
That's the other point of
there's that, and then there's also going through this. What's really interesting is how the lawyer frames the people that are still at Infinity Ward. So this is what I'm trying to find out. I don't have the quote that he gave me, but essentially, the Infinity Ward is alleging that the 38 people in the suit are alleging that they're being held hostage to create Modern Warfare 3 in order to create Modern Warfare 4, in order to create Modern Warfare 5, to get the money they're owed for 2, 3, and 4.
Because of the way in which they're going to be doling out the royalties, they would actually have to be around for that many games to be made for them to actually see
to get all the money
money
they're owed for 2, they have to finish 3. To get all the money they're owed for 3, they have to finish 4. And so what they're saying is that the people who have, that's why you're kind of seeing the split between people who are left Infinity Ward, maybe with Respawn and are part of the suit, or still at Infinity Ward or part of the suit, because maybe not everyone wants to leave to Respawn, maybe not everyone can to leave to Respawn, but they want financial cushioning if they leave, because According to the Infinity Ward's lawyers, they're saying that if you leave, you should be paid all of your bonuses within 72 hours. But Activision's saying, well, because of West and Zampella and because of other things, we can't give you that money. And so this is sort of a joint suit to essentially bend Activision over a barrel and get a substantial amount of money from them.
Clearly are due. So let's just reiterate, because I saw it in the headline and I even read it wrong. When they said, that there's something in the suit about being held hostage, just has nothing to do with the bouncer types that showed up.
No
on
one
that
is
day.
actually being held hostage at gunpoint.
That word just virally became such a nightmare out there, where there were men with guns and respawn points happening somewhere at the Infinity Ward offices. Steven?
Yes.
Are you sympathetic to the Infinity Ward guys? Or do you think Bobby Kotick is just he's being made out to be a mean guy?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's such like corporate infighting kind of stuff that, like in an outside the game community, does it actually matter to anybody? Does it matter to the financial people? Does it matter to the stockholders or anything like that? And so far, I don't think the stock has really been affected, which we were talking about earlier is kind of surprising. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, when is that going to happen? When is this actually gonna hit the bottom line of Activision, if at all?
It's a really good point. I mean, Abbie and I think we've discussed this on the show here, that obviously they don't know sort of the nitty gritty. They see that brand, Call of Duty, and that just there means dollar bills. It doesn't matter who's making it. But if you look at Tony Hawk, if you look at what's happening with Guitar Hero, if you don't keep that series fresh and tends to be in the hands of the guys who made it popular in the first place, people seem to smell it out over the course of years, and then it's not successful. So,
I think that just points to the fact that, maybe they should be paying attention, but no one's going to pay attention to it affects their bottom line, which might not be till 2, 3, 4 years from now when the series hits a saturation point, and so that's not really a concern.
Which they seem to be ready to do with having various types, a third-person game that's in it. I mean, obviously, it's a brand.
I mean, like Matt and I were talking about, like, unless this is settled soon, assumingly based on all the language, that Modern Warfare 3 is not being made right now.
Yeah.
It should be deep into pre-production, moving in the design phase late summer, early fall, and they're not at that point yet.
Call of Duty, recent warfare. I promise you, they're going to be making it. It'll be like Desert Storm.
What do you do next November? What do you do November 2011 if this game isn't ready?
I know. And then, you know what? If Call of Duty doesn't stay in the public consciousness, as they've been able to do over the past few years with one every single year,
Well, keep in mind they went from 2 developers to now 3 developers, and now who knows with what happens to Infinity Ward, maybe back to 2 developers. So it still seems like they would be prepared to release games in the same cycle that they always have, which is putting one out every fall.
They may have anticipated something like this was happening.
Because you'd hope they'd learn something from like what happened with Tony Hawk, where they were starting to put I don't remember which game it was. Maybe it was Underground 2, maybe it was American Wasteland, but one of those games I remember, like, everybody I knew who liked Tony Hawk after that one game was just like, well, forget that. Like, I'm not going back. Like, like, you put out a weak link in that yearly cycle, and you can do much more damage than Infinity Ward leaving.
Just going every other year, and having a habit like that. Let's read the comment from R. Gray Miller, because it's very philosophical,
This is actually what we were discussing at lunch today, so it's perfect.
Yeah. How many people need to leave before Infinity Ward is no longer Infinity Ward? Or has it already happened? Are there or will there be enough originally key people left at Infinity Ward to produce games that carry their signature in more than just name only?
At this point, I don't think there are enough people.
I was about to say, does anyone here think it's still Infinity Ward?
Well, I mean, especially because I don't have his name in front of me, but one of the guys that left on Monday is their lead programmer who,
John Shearing?
No, one of the other guys.
He's a
but he was told,
well.
like, I don't have I have his name somewhere, Bear. I mean, because that's the thing. There are 26 people, and there's like a new name to add to the list.
I know, it keeps going.
All these people I've never really heard of. But
let's put this in context. How many people do we believe on the development side of Infinity Ward were employed there? Obviously, we don't know specifically.
It was about 75.
It's about 75. So we've essentially lost a quarter of...
Actually, a third.
A little more. A third.
And that's that we know of now. I mean, the number could be larger, and it's...
this
seems
to be happening
larger, and so I'm saying Infinity Ward's not Infinity Ward now.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were, and
once you strip away the people who left 2015 to make Infinity Ward, I think you're no longer dealing with the same core creative team.
Right.
So, I would say they're not Infinity Ward as we know them in the past. I mean, maybe.
We're still talking 2/3 of a really talented development house, but we're clearly seeing the leadership gone. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And that's demoralizing. I mean, it's also. I mean, we said in the past, it's not like everything that was awesome about their games was just West and Zampella, but at the same time, their role there was ushering all these other talented people to create this product. I just think it'd be very hard with what's left. I mean, I think you might have a better shot with having an entirely new team.
Yeah, well, I mean, we
Infinity
were
Ward.
questioning whether they would bother to even keep the Infinity Ward studio or shut it down altogether. Because either you refill it with people that aren't actually Infinity Ward, or you fold them into Treyarch and the remaining members of the team, which at this point is not
Actually,
many.
Patrick had an interesting idea about going the opposite direction and making Infinity Ward the hub of all Call of Duty stuff, making Treyarch a subsidiary of Infinity Ward, and just have Infinity Ward be your Call of Duty unit. And
That makes more sense. I think it comes down to what we were just talking about with Steven here is how many people outside of that core group of gamers actually looks at Infinity Ward as a strong brand, or is it just Call of Duty? I mean, that's what they're going to have to sort of decide.
My friend Andrew, who runs the game store down in San Diego, said that Modern Warfare 2 was one of the first games where he saw people come in and they'd ask, "Is there a new Call of Duty coming out?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Is this made by the guys who made Modern Warfare?"
Like there was, and that's why that name is so important. Not just Infinity Ward,
exactly.
but Modern
They
Warfare.
weren't saying Infinity Ward so much as Modern Warfare.
And you also see that Infinity Ward branding on almost every screen in the game. So it's kind of, I mean, even if you're not look,
almost
it
like
is
they're
there.
trying to tell you something without telling
It's like
you
a coded
anything.
message.
And I had never noticed, and someone pointed it out after all this started going down, that if you look at the boot up sequence to Modern Warfare 2, Activision's logo is nowhere to be found.
Well, just like it wasn't found on any of their marketing stuff.
It's only in like the copyright or in the credits, and even like they play it down. And I never noticed that when it happened. Like that's extremely significant.
Abby and I noticed
did
this
notice
at the reveal for the multiplayer, which was back September last year.
I don't even remember anymore.
We were there and we just looked up and we saw an Xbox 360 logo. We saw the Call of Duty logo. We saw the Modern Warfare logo and the Infinity Ward logo.
But that wasn't the first time we
Activision.
noticed it. The first time we noticed it was at E3 last year. Because there was that giant poster outside of one of the halls, this huge banner. And it was Modern Warfare. I mean, first of all, there was no Call of Duty on it. And then there was IW, but not Activision on it. And we were Adam and I kind of both went, how's Activision letting them not put their... And then look what happened.
I asked one of the, I don't remember if it was Vince or
I thought you asked Vince at the launch
about
event.
that, like what was with that banner, and he said that Activision did that without their prompting.
But if Activision is holding on to the Infinity Ward name, and the Infinity Ward name means something to a lot of gamers, what difference does it ultimately make?
I think the question is, does it mean that much to gamers? I mean, obviously, Call of Duty is the strongest. Looks like Modern Warfare is very strong. Where does Infinity Ward? Is that a distant third? Is that a close third? Is it important?
Well, I think at this point, we thought it was interesting that they were suing for control the Modern Warfare name, Vincent Zampella, but I don't get the impression they actually want that. That's just to screw with Activision to push off development of Modern Warfare 3, which helps people like this in this lawsuit when they're not forced to make that game. And then that gives them time to get up and running, maybe get a community site going, getting all of those people that are sort of like, well, I'm done with Modern Warfare 2, what do I do next? We'll start following Respawn, like start influencing our game. And so I think they're trying to push off Activision controlling that Modern Warfare brand as much as possible so Respawn can jump in, maybe by late summer when they can sort of say, look, we're making this game, help us make it over the next 2 years.
Can I make my sad face? Does this mean we're not getting any new map packs?
Yeah, speaking for the gamer out there, Abbie Heppe.
It also incentivizes Activision to get this thing settled as fast as possible.
Yes.
Which is advantageous for the plaintiffs because, they're more...
It's advantageous for everyone. It's just a matter of, it's hard to figure out what are the ulterior motives in this.
Yeah, and how much is it, hopefully the hubris that would seem to be so evident in the beginning is giving way to, some pragmatic legal decision making. So thank you very much for the coverage on this, Patrick. Obviously, we're going to hear more. It's not like counting sheep; it's counting former IW employees. Is how you can get to bed tonight.
I really, that helps you sleep at night.
Oh, yes.
You're a sick
that
man.
and Xanax. So, let's talk about another, and this is not as fascinating and just kind of sad. Sega had to lay off a lot of people, and people that all of us in this room know.
Yeah, I mean, Sega had to lay off 76 people between San Francisco and London, and it's essentially their San Francisco office is becoming their sort of digital branch. We've seen Sega do a lot more in releasing downloadable games, iPhone games. We're seeing some rumors about maybe Shenmue or Jet Set Radio coming to Xbox Live Arcade. So they're they've taken a lot of people out of there. San Francisco's not dealing with the console and handheld and PC branch anymore. That's kind of being transitioned to London, and then London had some redundancies. And so, 76 people are kind of out of a job.
It's a very interesting structure. This is the first time since I think the era of IDOS that London's been the hub for a game publisher.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm curious to see how that's going
But
to work.
I think that's because Mike Hayes, who's their president, came from Sega Europe, and now he's
true.
the president of Sega proper. So I think that's just sort of his base, and that kind of reflects sort of a change.
Obviously,
Sega's fan
Matt and
base
I
is.
have a small connection. Those Sega offices, they're not there now, but up until last year, used to be one floor right above Tech TV.
Really?
And despite that, we still got review code late.
Yeah, right. We could come upstairs. What do you want?
It was a little bit challenging, but yeah, there was always kind of an interesting and fun relationship between both companies. Obviously, times have not been good to Sega, and some of it were circumstances of the economy, and some of it, a lot of us in this room felt was Sega just dropping the ball. And like, you know, Bayonetta should have been a bigger hit than it was, and I just felt that the marketing was just all about boobs when I don't think that was you were going to really stimulate. Wrong word. Your primary audience with that.
You made the sign fall.
Look, the feedback is like, no, Adam, no, not another pun with the sexual, no. What the hell is that? That's the feedback sign. It's different than the grumpy Adam sound.
And slightly different from the Jewish mother. And
Exactly.
we're
Where's
gonna,
The feedback
okay,
sign
I get
from?
it.
Exactly.
Yeah, one day I'll just fill in for Letterman because he makes voices that don't make any sense to me either. So
You know that
Gotta learn
means
some
we have
pen
to do an episode of Yo on E now.
you're right. You're right. Quickly, something about the hills or the valleys. I don't know. But
valleys.
back to Sega. I mean,
Yeah, they haven't.
does
They
it
haven't
sound
had
like
much in a way of. I mean, they've had modest hits, but they just haven't seemed to. They haven't been able to capitalize on the hardcore for a long, long time.
And Sega
No.
used to be one of the most valuable brand in all of video games. I mean, ever since the
Not
Saturn.
the last 10 years or so. I mean, it's like what I'm an old Sega fan from back in the day. I rooted for them of Master System over NES. That was a fun.
Hey, Fantasy
time.
Zone. Come on.
Fantasy Zone, great game.
I love
But,
that game.
I mean, the last 10 years have been like watching somebody like stuff my old pet and like move it around like a marionette. I was like, why aren't you laughing? Why don't you think it's funny? It's like I don't think it's funny because you're ruining everything. And like we're at the point now where we were talking about this last weekend. It's like people always talk about where's Shenmue 3, where's Jet Set Radio 3, it's like. The people who made those things great are gone. They are long gone. And if you make another one of those, you're going to end up with another Knights 2, and it's just going to break your damn heart.
Now, to that point, where is Yuji Naka and Yu Suzuki?
I don't know.
I mean,
Where's
these
Yu
guys, it's
Suzuki?
almost like they're being hidden somewhere.
well, Naka made the Wii game.
Naka was starting to go with some really strange.
Let's tap and cry about it.
We were going to do a documentary called, the search for Naka's brain, because
Yeah.
after that thing with the chicken and the egg and the rolling around,
Billy
what
Hatcher
the
was
hell
the
are we
moment.
talking
Billy
about?
Hatcher was
Billy
definitely
Hatcher.
the
Billy.
moment.
Oh man, who names a chicken Billy?
I don't know.
It's just you just don't do that to all the
Is that
people
one of
that
your
have
gold?
chickens.
Is that
They're
one of
thinking
your,
about
is that one of
naming.
your golden rules?
Yes, you don't
Don't name a
chicken
chicken
Billy.
Billy. That's
Just don't. It's ridiculous.
Billy is a goat's name, and that's how it's going to stay.
I mean,
So-
even their hardcore stuff has been like on the Wii or like where it's like the wrong
And
audience.
I liked a lot of their Wii titles.
I just think the people have to go out of their way to buy like a Mad World on the Wii, whereas like if it'd been a
That's what's crazy.
I feel
have
like they were a
platinum
little
games.
too early. They should. Oh, and the platinum stuff is awesome. And
And they're not
But you got to
positioning
get it
it
I
out
know.
there.
It's just anyway. So let's Juicy Lee, I believe, is on board with us. If Sega doesn't want to fold completely in the next 5 years, then they need to start licensing / selling IPs or listening to the fans. Companies like Capcom do it, and they really aren't hurting these days. Now, are they?
Well,
Excellent
I mean,
point.
it's a good idea. Other Japanese companies seem to have woken up to this idea. I mean, you've got Konami farming out Castlevania to Kojima Productions, which is a great idea because Konami certainly hasn't been able to get a 3D Castlevania working
Since
for
the
like
N64.
ever, and it's like hand it over to somebody who can do it. It's a good idea. I mean, Sega's got some franchises. What would happen if you just said, "Here's Sonic the Hedgehog. Let's see what Insomniac can do with it."
Yeah, it's. I mean,
Ooh.
and they have so many valuable IPs that haven't been used, so they don't. Well, remember,
and the good
there
ones
was
that
gonna
they
be a
have, they've
Vector
beaten
Man
some of them
game
to
that was
death,
on the
but you
Dreamcast
just
and that
gotta-
died. But that's go give these out. These are the games that made the people who are making games today make video games.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you saw.
There's
like
a lot of
with-
love.
Like Randy Pitchford, essentially saying, "We'll pay you to let us do Samba de Amigo," and Sega's like, all right, fine. Like the fact that he had to go to that lengths, like that should have been a no-brainer. It didn't do that well, but like that's what they should be doing is doing with Capcom. Like Capcom sort of learned that. Well, we'll do our big internal. We'll do the new franchises, but we'll go find fans of our games to go make. Those
games.
like, if the original guys aren't around anymore, like And we've learned more than enough times that the original guys may not remember what makes their games tick in the first place. Go give it to the fans. Like the fans will go make the game they want from the third one. Like you have a better chance that way. And I think if Sega was more proactive about that with their franchises, they have 1 million franchises to give out.
And Capcom figured that out a long time ago.
Yeah.
With stuff like Maximo, which like not the
Oh my
greatest.
God! Why don't we have a new
Not the
Maximo?
greatest sales
Yes.
in the world, but it's
Now
a
that
great
you can have a
re-envisioning of
full
that
moving
franchise.
camera rather than using the bumpers to move the camera.
I love that.
Actually,
game.
I was gonna save that for a viewer question. So so stay tuned, everyone. We'll discuss this later in the show. I want to move to the third story because this, at least as of yesterday, looked like it was going to be the biggest story this week. And then Infinity Ward came and decided to steal that thunder. So the Supreme Court is going to finally hear cases relating to whether or not you can legally restrict sales of M-rated games to minors under the age of 18. This is all because of the charming and whimsical Leland Yee.
Well, I mean, yeah, essentially it comes down to, is it the industry's job to regulate itself and impose, sort of fines and stuff on retailers and work with the states? Or is it the government's job, the government's role to say, well, the industry can't regulate itself, so we're going to do it for you? That doesn't apply to any other medium. This would be something unique to video games if it fell on that on that onerous to the video game industry.
Down to
But
Leland Lee being a jerk.
yeah,
I grew up on the peninsula up north, and his signs when I was growing up, his signs used to be everywhere, and like I'm against him just for that. Every time I run over
Matt
these
Kyle-
signs,
Kyle's skyline.
in.
My vistas are screwed by the Leland Yee. I want to read
That
a
makes him
comment.
sound like a monster. Well, maybe
No, he's
he-
actually about this
Yeah.
tall. I want to read what Ocelot Fox says because I think it really is more the. I love all the kids under 18. They're not my concern in this case. It's exactly what Ocelot Fox is saying. The biggest possible impact of this case is that the Supreme Court could legitimize video games as a form of speech with all of the constitutional protections that the classification could provide. And that's it. The problem is this could legitimize. This is going to decide if video games are a form of speech or not. Now, a lot of
could
people
be an epic backfire for Mr. Yee.
Yeah, I mean, this could lay the whole thing to rest. And a lot of the stuff I was seeing in the mainstream press was because last week the Supreme Court, at an 8-1 ruling, said it was okay to sell, videos of animal cruelty because that was protected speech. And it was like, well, this is strange that they're taking up video games in light of this. What probably is happening, and let's cross our fingers on this, is that they decided to take this case and not send it back or just agree with the Ninth Circuit's ruling, is that there are so many different states that are trying to have laws that all have different language that there are probably amicus briefs being filed with the court saying, please, we need to just lay this damn thing to rest so we can move on and worry about something else that's complete BS. So cross your fingers. It looks like that the Supreme Court, as it stands right now, is very libertarian when it comes to the First Amendment.
Yeah,
and that looks very good
I
for
hope
us.
so.
It'll be curious to see how other mediums weigh in because a lot of what could end up swaying a lot of that is whether we'll do music, movies. Do those other mediums look
Call
at us
Roger
as
Ebert.
a medium?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Well, the whole other thing is that this should be doubly strange
troll?
that the ratings are an independent entity with no government authority whatsoever that are just funded by the video game industry, yet they would then be making decisions that would carry the force of law right there. Even Scalia, I think, could look at that and go like, that is not a good situation.
I think
and no
it's
one wants
huge
to create a
problem.
government institution to rate video games. That's censorship.
Well,
and
that's
if you-
one of the arguments that they're making is that the rating system that the ASRB isn't doing a good enough job. So that's why the government needs to step in, says
No,
the state
the
of California.
American
I totally disagree.
education system isn't doing
There
a
you
good
go.
enough job for someone to
Parents
figure out.
aren't
It's-
doing a good enough job.
Yeah, but
I think
also,
everybody
let-
understands the ratings and everybody's parents
let's
get it.
Identify
You know what I mean?
this for what it is. Leland Yee is not really trying to prevent the sales of video games to minors. He is obsessed with the idea that video games are somehow uniquely pernicious and corrupt people's minds. And to agree with him in any way in the courts is to agree with probably some of the most intellectually dishonest arguing I've ever heard from someone, not just Yee, but everyone else like him, that somehow this is like a drug. It sounds like a bunch of just paranoid adults running around because they don't understand what this new technology is. No, they're like Tea Party activists. It's just people who don't like change and don't like things that are different. Yeah, you can hunt me down, you people with all your SWAT stickers.
Are we going to
like
see
it.
them out on the street corners with posters of, I don't know, like
it's just
Miyamoto with the Hitler
everything-
mustache? Is
everything
that what
in the
we're...
past 2 years seems to be about people who are terrified of things getting a little bit different and primarily how they involve people of a different color.
And
I'm
they're
said it.
thinking
I'm
to-
done.
There you go.
I mean,
All
what,
right.
do you, what do you? I mean,
There you go.
But there's no studies that back them up. There's nothing.
No, there's nothing.
No,
evidence.
nothing.
So,
Or
And
if there
plus-
is a study, it's a study that is so completely biased because of where the funding is coming from.
Yeah.
That is just
Plus,
anyway.
studies or no studies, even if the studies show that there was some long-term negative effect of games on kids, it still would be protected speech because it has to be like an immediate effect.
Right. And
Like
that-
yelling fire in a crowded
where-
theater would be the classic
Where this
example.
could get a little bit nasty is there's always been arguments that the First Amendment does not have the same application to minors as it does to adults. That's the one way that they could try to split the baby on this.
But that's not.
Split
But
baby.
isn't what's being said like not as long as minors aren't making violent video games? That's kind of a non-issue, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that I don't think they can make that argument because still then it goes back to the classification and everything we said about the ESRB, having the force of law, which there's no precedent for that in American
No.
history, and I think would make everyone very, very nervous. All right, speaking of nerves, deadly premonition.
Look how excited Steve
I'm
got.
so excited by Deadly
I am
Premonition.
so
Like,
excited too. This
I
is like
think there's a lot of viewers out there,
It's mid-February.
the ones who haven't gotten pissed off at what I just said and decided to go hit the pause button right there, but who have not even heard about this game. When did it come out? Is it available?
Oh yeah, it's available.
Is it
And you can get it for
I
like
don't
20 bucks.
believe this game exists.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it's $20.
$20.
sometimes less.
Yeah.
$20.
I have to tell the story of why. Probably one of the main reasons we're covering Deadly Premonition is because one of our readers, whose gamer tag is TB007, sent every day about 15 or 20 emails to our entire editorial staff that just said the words Deadly Premonition. And after a couple of weeks of this, I finally said, okay, I'll play the stupid Deadly Premonition game, and found immediately that it's amazing.
All right,
Well,
let's
let's
just
not-
pause for 1 second. Word to our viewers. That tactic worked that one time and
let's-
only
don't-
that one
don't
time.
try.
And
Do
it's
not
never
say,
going to
"Do
work
it
again."
again.
So not
let
do
me,
that.
Let me enhance that story with when this game came out, I went and bought it and was telling people on XPlay's side like, "This is amazing. We got to do something with this. We got to do something with this. We got to." And no one cared. Like it was.
I cared.
You cared, but like you were busy.
That's true. I was.
And it was just one of those things where it's like, Matt's on one of his like weird niche title things again.
We
And
keep
it's
Matt
like,
in like the janitor's closet.
yeah,
and-
it's like every once in a while I play
Go
something
back
like
to your
Infinite
hole.
Space or something. I'm just like, this is a
Okay.
really good
Oh,
space
like I was
strategy
trying to
game.
convince everybody that Style Savvy was awesome because I've been in your shoes.
We
I
all
believe
have
you.
We all have that. Okay.
Again, I
I
told
know.
you
See,
after
I
that.
believe Matt and I back each
All
other
right,
up.
chill
Listen,
out.
What is Deadly Premonition?
Deadly Premonition is the greatest Dreamcast horror game never made
Yes.
for the Dreamcast
Yes.
Yeah.
by a Twin Peaks fan with way too much time and money in his hands.
Perfect.
That's exactly how.
perfect description.
Yes.
Like, do you remember the Ildi trailer for the game that would tell you
Ildi is
you're
definitely-
going to with fear? Like, this is that strain of like Japanese game developers like creating games like they don't really know how to do and like doing this weird twist on like American like culture and like it's
Yeah.
so weird.
But I'm arguing that it's all intentional. And
Yeah.
I mean,
I
here's
think so,
here's
too.
the thing about Deadly Premonition: the story, the presentation, the comedy, everything is a dead-on parody of both Twin Peaks and horror games from like the last couple generations. I think it's all intentional, down to the point that I think every single element of the gameplay is flawed in some specific way, and I think they're all in there on purpose. There's things like where like the map is incredibly difficult to work with
The map's
because
a pain.
it just doesn't zoom out quite far enough.
or at all really.
And it is a
So
big
awesome.
map. I
Yeah,
mean,
and-
it's an open world game
Yeah, this
basically,
game
and
is
the
like-
map is
I would say the
significant.
game is almost like space wise. You can't go everywhere. You can just go on the roads. But space wise is probably as much driving as say driving around Just Cause 2's map. And except there's nothing
Well,
to do.
yeah.
and like you
And the cars run out of gas, and
Yeah.
you can't like.
Because
That's
cars-
why you
the
have the
cars are
flares, and then you call in the new patrol
The cars
car.
ran out of gas, and like there was one moment where like apparently you can go through this convoluted process to get like a fast travel item, which I haven't done yet.
I
But
tried to
there was a
explain how to do it to everybody this morning, and everybody's like, "You're crazy."
There was,
Like,
there was a moment where I drove for 9.5 minutes to get somewhere. And then around the 9-minute mark, it goes cha-ching, and it gives you extra money for driving a long distance.
yeah.
Okay,
So awesome.
That it made you drive.
Let me try to sublimate some of what just happened here. So this is a mystery game, involves a killer. It's overt references to Twin Peaks, and it's got a horror element to
blatant,
it.
just
Play a
blatant.
crazy
Blatantly
FBI
Twin
agent
Peaks.
who may not be an
Nothing
FBI
works
agent.
very well, but it might be on purpose. I mean, I get exactly what the appeal of this game could be. But like, when was it, Stephen? When you're playing, you went, hold on. I'm getting this.
I have an
Steve,
exact
tell
moment. The prologue is terrible, and the controls are terrible, and the graphics are terrible, and you hate it, and you go, why would I play this? Then you get to the open world section, get in a car, and start driving, and the
This is
game
so
gives you
good.
the option of thinking things to yourself. And you hit the think things to yourself button, and what you think about is obscure cult movies from the 1980s. and you're talking to yourself in another character by the name of Zach, who's never explained. And the observations are brilliant, and the overall effect just hits you at once. You go, I get it.
But it is very Dale Cooper talking to Diane on the, except that there's no there's no little tape recorder, because I totally fell in love with it like right at the beginning, and I ended up spending like pretty much my entire weekend. I played about 24 hours of it and finally beat the game because I couldn't put it down. The cutscenes, I love to skip cutscenes, and I could not skip one because they all were just so bizarre.
And but the dialogue is so insane because like the first one is like, Zach, don't you remember when we used to go to the video store and we go to the video store because we had just gotten that new VHS player but we tried to rent the movies, but not a lot of them were very good but there were so many with good black lines that made them sound so interesting, Zach. Weren't they good?
Yeah, but if you,
what are you talking about?
I am obsessed with Twin Peaks, and if you like this, his cadence and the way that the lines are delivered in that, and even the characters down to there's like the log lady in Twin Peaks. There's like the pot lady not smoking it, actual physical cooking something in it pot, and it's like provides the same kind of role. And there's all these parallels that are just so satisfying, but it is very much like kind of written and acted in the same sort of ways, and I find that hugely satisfying. I'm like, yes, I do want to talk about the coffee and delicious food in this town. I do.
I don't think I've ever seen a game reference copyrighted material as often as this game.
No, we were like, wait, do they have a licensing department? Do they have a legal department?
I don't think you need a license to mention
just talk
Superman
about why you
4.
love Jaws.
But like, I mean, there's this whole thing about Superman, and Superman 4 was terrible, and Richard Pryor probably wasn't a great idea, but like Superman 1 and 2 by Richard Donner were great movies, and I think I prefer those movies to the Star Wars movies. But every time I try to sing the Superman theme, it turns into the Star Wars theme halfway through, and it's like,
this is real dialogue.
This is actually what he's saying. I'm not making that up.
That sounds very American, like, sort of mid-90s Quentin Tarantino.
Let me blow your mind further. I don't know where these people got. I mean, it's a Japanese development team, I think, and it's.
Well, you can follow the creative director on Twitter.
It's the people who made Spy Fiction.
Wow.
Who remembers that game? But it's astounding in that like it's so dead on in terms of like the pop culture references. There's a whole section where they complain about how bad the DVD special features were on cat people.
Yeah.
I mean,
the music is terrible, but
Paul
it works
Schrader's
perfectly.
There's 4 music tracks, and they're all perfect, but they're all terrible.
And not only that, like the game
I think there's
has
5 once you get to the end.
At the end, they
final boss
at the end.
Here are the leaderboards for this game. Like amount of times you shaving, amount of time you spend peeping in windows, amount of time you spend sleeping, number of times that you spilled things on your clothes. Like these are the leaderboards for the game.
You get extra points for keeping your suit clean.
Yeah.
So awesome.
We have talked on the show before about we really don't have good bad games, or just
this is it.
Like this kind of quirk.
No, but this is not even so
bad
bad.
it's
It's
bad.
good. It's so good. It's good.
But we're talking about B movies.
Oh no, I agree.
This sounds unlike.
This is like the first
anything we've talked about on this show.
It's
you know what it is? It's the video game version of the movie Army of Darkness. A movie that was very ambitious, made on a very small budget, and comes out as this quirky, incredible, amazing movie. Even though the special effects aren't that great, it's still better than everything that's come out in years. And that's the way I feel about this game.
I just feel it does need to be emphasized, like if you took away the trappings of this game, like presentational trappings, this is not a good game. It's not good, okay? It's good because and I do not enjoy like the action sequences so much. I am still playing it because I want to see what happens in the next cutscene, and that just doesn't really happen very often.
Well, it's like real time. So basically, if there are 10 hours before your next mission, you pretty much have 10 hours to kill. Although you can speed up time by smoking.
I didn't know that early on.
He is always smoking cigarettes in the game, but you can speed up time that way.
I would literally. I'm like, oh, we have an appointment at 11 o'clock tonight, and I'm just like, well, it's 8. So I guess I'll just leave the game on and go do something. I played DS games and checked the time on Dead
I cleaned part of my apartment.
Experimental is what Yu Suzuki had once said about Shenmue, where he had always envisioned that he wanted a game where if you died, the game stopped working. You'd have to buy another copy if you had any hope to ever want to see the end of the game. I'm glad that idea didn't get done, mind you.
Yeah, Kojima had a similar idea for Metal Gear Solid 2. He's like, it was maybe like $5 a copy, and you had to go buy another one every time you screwed up.
Well, it'd be awesome if you could skip some of the gameplay, like you can skip cutscenes in most games. Like if you could skip the gameplay to get to the cutscenes, that was Jake Gaskell's
suggestion. It sounds like an unendurable game.
Like
that was not unendurable. Some of the real problems with the gameplay, though, that does make the cutscene feel all the more special once you actually get to it.
And between that massive amount of time sometimes where you're waiting for missions, there's a lot you can do. I seriously
as
spent
peeping in windows.
I killed like 2 hours playing darts at the bar. I mean, there's also a challenge linked to that,
Which is one of the leaderboards.
Yeah, which is also
And
a
there's
leaderboard.
dozens and dozens and dozens of side quests.
And a
with
lot
all
of them
the
you have to
different
do at
people.
very, very specific times. Sometimes before those characters are killed off.
Yeah.
But then you can actually go back once you're there and you can reload a different chapter and then take what you've earned in that chapter, because some of them do give you kind of upgrades for the game into the later chapters that you're playing. But maybe there's not as much tutorial in certain parts of the game as maybe there should be.
Even the side quests are so bizarre. Like
They're
when you,
so
when
weird.
when you meet the sheriff and he's like, "Could you go find my friend Arnold? I haven't seen him in a while. Like, let me know when you find Arnold." And then as you're exploring the police station, you find a dumbbell
See, I
that
found
has
it
the name
before.
that has the name Arnold on it. And then you return it to Arnold, and then you return it to George is the sheriff.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And then when you hand the dumbbell to him, he just starts going like this as you're talking to him.
Oh,
like,
the crying
for
and
no
laughing
reason.
animations are hilarious.
Oh, and this again, George reminds me of like, and here's another example of where I want to know the development style of the or process of this game. You get to this small
Acid?
town, Greenvale, and like the sheriff and the deputy are named George and Emily, which is a
Wow.
reference to Our Town and like by Thornton Wilder, and it's like
As
Why-
American a
why do
play
you
as
know
you can
that?
get
Yeah.
in the last century.
so strange.
The side mission that I had when I went just going back and playing some more this morning was I had like a biology quiz, and you had to know. Like, I'm glad I remember enough of like honors biology from like 9th grade, because seriously, you don't have time to Google search those questions, and they were not easy. And I mean, they
game
made
is so
sense, but they were
awesome.
not easy. And then all the different side missions are like kind of all uniquely bizarre.
I found a skeletal dog hand or
Yep.
a skeleton hand, and then a dog stole it, and then I had to get it back.
Yeah.
Okay, I believe
We could go on for probably
more
another
than,
45 minutes.
more than
Unreal.
any other game that we've talked about on feedback, that I hope the audience understands that the way everyone's been behaving, this is probably one of the most ringing endorsements of a game, albeit a game that by everyone's admission falls way short of perfect, but it should be experienced. $20 for the game.
$20.
You should be able to
bucks.
find it at a GameStop, it sounds like.
Probably.
Yeah.
And if you're a
Amazon-
Twin Peaks
Amazon would
fan,
have it.
you have to play.
Twin
I actually
Peaks, fan
started
of
writing.
B-movies.
I started writing down all of the similarities between that game and Twin Peaks till I ran out of room on 2 pages, and then I
The
just
other
quit.
thing I think we should mention is that like, as the game progresses, you start to find more and more victims of the killer, like kind of in these various like very almost 7-ish situations, and like usually they're set up so that something that that you and the investigators do when you get there
Caused something
causes their
horrible
death.
to happen. Yeah.
And it gets really intense. Like
Yeah.
there's some moments where I'm like, oh, wow, that's horrifying.
yeah,
Like,
it was really gross.
and then the next scene, it's like I'm locked in a basement and the dog has the key. It's impossible
It's
to
also-
figure
And
out
I
what
got
to do.
nervous. I jumped a couple of times, and then you guys all have to get to the end because
It's
I need.
so
because
weird that it works though. Like the whole
Yeah.
game works, and like all the parts, like we could talk about it all day, and you would say that game could never work, and yet you play it, and it's like, oh my god, it fits
Totally
together
works.
in some way that nobody can understand.
I also have
I
drinking really enhances this game.
there you go.
And
Really
I just
enhanced it.
think like for $20 or maybe less on Amazon at this point, maybe I don't know. Like just try it, because if you hate it, like it's only
Give
like
it to a
that. It's little
friend.
bit- give it to someone else, because if you find someone who's gonna love it, like they're really gonna love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, this
And
sounds
it's a
like
lot of
you
games.
might know exactly what kind of a gamer you are by playing this game. Thank you guys so
Big
much for
premonition.
all playing. I now have to go play this game. As you
Yeah.
can see,
When-
I haven't
let me
gotten to
know
play it
when you
yet.
guys beat it because I need someone to discuss the whole.
Now, I want to get to our viewer question of the week. Also from Ocelot Fox, Mr. Fox, you've been writing well this week. Here's one inspired by 3D.Game Heroes. What older video game genre or niche market would you like to see revisited by a modern game developer? To which I will say the Ghosts and Goblins series. Okay, that's the whole Maximo thing. But now, Steven, anything?
I would like to see more than a genre. I would like to see the return of the actual arcade, the corner arcade. I know it's never going to happen. I get it.
well,
but
Game Room on. Have you been playing Game Room on
yeah,
Xbox? Because
and it's really cool, and I really
Yeah.
dig
I
it.
think
but
Steven wants to go to a smelly place.
Yeah,
Game
that's what I'm
Room
talking
doesn't
about.
count
I mean,
'cause there's no
like,
chance of being
air
stabbed.
hockey tables and like the whole nine. But I know that's never
GameWorks
going to happen.
doesn't do it for you.
Yeah.
I remember I used to go to Laval's on Durant Street in Berkeley. You know, this pizza place, and they had some really good arcade machines, including Gauntlet. And bikers, I was like 11, would come up, offer me beer, which I wouldn't take, and then be like, well, do you want to ride on my motorcycle? And I'm like, you know what? It's the 80s. I know this trick. You know, I felt insulted. I thought my intelligence was insulted by these biker molesters. Abby, what would you like to see brought back?
Biker molesters, please.
Now all I can think of is
Dramatic.
biker molesters. I don't know. I'm still thinking about this one. I just and
Matt?
trust somebody not to screw it up. I don't know.
This one's easy for me. The X-wing TIE Fighter Wing Commander Space
Yeah.
Combat
Yes,
game.
yes.
Bring it back. Bring it in. Charge me whatever you want.
Yeah,
I don't care.
all right,
I
I'm with
miss
you.
that genre so much.
The lack of X-Wing versus TIE Fighter is almost astounding to
And
me,
because
it seems kind of obvious.
Think about it on the technology now. I mean, even Colony Wars back
It
on the
wouldn't look just
PS1
like
would be
mine.
was so pretty at the time. I mean, it was just like Bloom gone crazy. But like, imagine like a really good top of the line PS3 or 360 game that could display the galaxy and fly through the nebula. Anything. I don't care. Just give me something I can shoot at.
I think that's
I did think of one. I don't necessarily want it reimagined. I really loved like the Disney games in the era of Genesis and Nintendo, and I
they
would
were
love
good.
to see somebody Disney re-release those on Xbox
Castle
Live
of Illusion
Marketplace.
and
I want
It's
to like
interesting,
Aladdin
yeah.
and even like Aladdin and the Lion King, like
Aladdin
going through
was
those
really
were
good.
great games. I would actually like to see them.
I mean, they would make money if they did that. It's interesting, though. We've always heard, like with Epic Mickey, that this is part of a move to try to rebrand, represent a lot of the iconic Disney characters. And I wonder if that sort of precludes, showing the other presentations that they've had in the past. But I agree with you. I liked the Tarzan game for the PS1 was really good.
Yeah.
It's a really good platform.
There was a
I'm
period
gonna-
of time where I bought every one because they were all great. Every Disney game.
I'm gonna call it now Epic Mickey World in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Probably so. Oh, kids, we don't know when it's coming out. Stop writing
no one
us.
said anything.
All right, stop it.
You
Stop
cursed
it.
Do
Yeah,
you people
15 more
understand that the day Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, the first email we got that day was, when's Kingdom Hearts 3 coming out? The day Kingdom Hearts 2 came out.
Natural question.
That was a
Control
long,
yourself.
long time ago.
I like those games too, but just they don't tell us anything.
Yeah, it's not like we're like, ooh, got a secret. Not that. Oh,
I know.
Find
I'm
out
just
when
not
you
telling
find
anybody.
out. Trust me.
I know the exact date. I'm just not saying anything to anybody.
see.
Email Steven. Here's his email.
Yes,
address.
email him. Apparently, if you email him enough, he'll do anything for you.
That email
I've
goes,
been
that
asking
email
for $5
goes to
for the
me
past
too.
10 years, so I don't know.
That's why I'm
God
doing it,
damn it.
Klepek.
Patrick, what
Thanks, Zach.
would you like to see brought back?
Actually, what I'd like to continue to happen is the adventure genre to continue as it is going, which is expanding and seeing things like Secret of Monkey Island 2 getting I love what LucasArts is doing right now. I love what Telltale is doing. I'm glad that they seem to be finding enough of a market that they're selling, or at least selling enough.
Anyone here tried Sam & Max on the iPad?
Beat it on the iPad, yeah.
You liked it?
Yes.
I just got it.
It
and
feels
The
like
one
it-
person in the room with an iPad
Yeah.
aside
Hey,
from
I have
you.
one. I have one.
I know. I said.
Well, I started playing, and then things happened, and I had to pull myself
It
away.
feels
but-
like the most natural way to play an adventure game.
That's exactly the kind of game that I want to be playing when I would be playing a game on my iPad.
Imagine what I'm so excited about is when Monkey Island 2 comes out, and they're releasing on the iPhone, they're releasing on XBLA. Naturally, my guess is they will release on the iPad too. But a totally revamped HD version of Monkey Island 2 on my iPad sounds like the greatest thing
I
ever.
feel like the DS missed the boat on that one. That
Yeah.
was
I
was
don't
really
know.
low hanging
You see, the
fruit.
thing is, I'm not sure they would have sold as well. I think downloadable works a lot better for those games than a retail.
The age
release.
of the iPad owner also probably had a very nice history with the Monkey Island series and other games like that growing up. So, I mean, there's definitely
I just think
nostalgia
if
there.
maybe a LucasArts collection would have worked really well on the DS, but I just have a hard time seeing people justify $30-$40 for
Day of the
a
Tentacle.
single.
I want Day of the Tentacle.
Yeah. Maniac
Because
Mansion.
Yes.
Keep an eye
Are you
on
going to
Steam.
complain about that one puzzle all the time?
Yeah, well, I always complain.
The Gabriel Knights are finally hitting good old games, aren't they? They're about to.
Are those still worth playing though?
They
you
changed
got to
it.
play
Wait, hold
Gabriel
on.
Knight too.
Gabriel
the cat
Knight's going to be on
mustache.
good old games. They're going to have to change it to OG. They can't call that GOG no more. That's just an old game.
That's what I mean. Some of those games don't really hold up. So.
I mean, you've told the story about that puzzle. And
Oh, yes, the puzzle. I think that was Gabriel Knight 3.
Was it 3? With
Yeah.
the cat mustache?
Where
have
you
to-
need a mustache and you have to use tape and get a cat to run across the tape that's hanging on a door so you can put a mustache so you can look like an ID that
you can-
doesn't
yeah.
have a mustache.
He does have a mustache, yeah. It's
Adventure games.
adventure
See,
games.
maybe
Favorite genre.
you need to
Why
read
did that
Gabriel
genre
Knight
have
3 with the
trouble?
eyes
I
of
don't
someone
know.
who
I
plays
don't
Deadly
know.
Premonition, and maybe it all makes sense.
I'd actually
But
like to see more games made like that. Just weird, crazy, bizarre.
Maybe we all missed the boat on Gabriel Knight 3, and it was more like Deadly
I don't
Premonition
know.
than we ever knew. That's all
Ahead
I
of
can
its
think.
time.
It was so my speed. I had fun.
So postmodern, it came back around the other side.
Exactly.
much.
Yeah.
And I think with the comparison of two relatively obscure games, one past and one recent, we will just leave our audience to ponder the imponderables of all of that. Stephen Johnson, thank you so much for stopping by. Abbie Heppe, Matt Keil, Patrick Klepek. This has been Feedback. Of course, we're always on G4TV.com. If you ever missed an episode, it's there. Watch it again. Also, if you like the show, tell a friend. And then if your friend goes, what the hell are you talking about? Go, I tried. So
Share it
anyway,
on
we'll be here.
Facebook and what's that other social network called?
It's thing. The
The face blat?
That's what he
Face
said.
flat?
I'm taking. Was that your word? Was or was last week? Where you
My
just-
spat?
Is it
My
just-
spat?
Yeah, no. Just making up names for
ad for the
Yeah.
editor right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that site.
just spend the last
LinkedIn? Is
few
it on
minutes of this-
LinkedIn? I can't remember. Anyway,
They'll fix it in post.
Guys, if you need me, you can find me on Friendster. We'll be back next week.
Deadly Premonition.
Do you play World of Warcraft or one of its 1,000 clones? Do you know what a mob or pug is? Then you'll want to make sure to check out the MMO Report. It gives you all the massively multiplayer online news you could want in a neat little package named Casey Schreiner. Check out all new episodes every Thursday over at g4tv.com/MMO. You're welcome.